Well, good morning, everybody, wherever you may be as you tune in this morning. It's been quite a week with one thing or another, and in Mr. Walker's absence, I know he'd want me to pass on to you his thanks and admiration for the resilience and determination shown by all pupils, whether on or off-site, this week, as we've moved into a very different and yet strangely familiar way of working. Those off-site have engaged brilliantly with remote learning, and I know that all of you will be looking forward to a heartily well-deserved rest at the end of today. Just to let you know that the plan for the next half of term is for us to resume full on-site learning for all year groups on Monday the 8th of November. But we want to be cautious. We will be continuing to ask you to wear masks in communal areas and also asking you not to visit other house spaces. There'll be no chapel on Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, but we will be putting plans in place for a carefully managed remembrance service on the Thursday. The headmaster will record a video assembly for the whole school on the first Friday back. Obviously, we're going to be keeping the situation under review and keeping a clear sense of how those cases are rising and falling. So for obvious reasons, it's been a slightly quieter week than normal, with many events postponed and reorganised for the weeks after the half-term break. The autumn concert, for example, which had been due to take place yesterday evening, will now happen on Friday the 12th of November. Another event that's needed to be rescheduled is the Junior Inter-House Debating Final. Congratulations to all those who represented their houses in this competition, but especially to the teams from school and Hope houses who will battle it out for first place, hopefully in that first week back, and arrangements on that will be communicated to you early in November. Turning to sport now, on this occasion I have only rugby results to report back to you. Last Saturday saw a new block fixture against RGS Lancaster, and I know that every match was competitive and that there was some spectacular sportsmanship on display from all sides at all levels. The first 15 took an early lead in their match, but on a narrow pitch the game remained very close. With only 1 minute to go, RGS capitalised on an opportunity and got within 2 points. The final scoreline then came down to their ability to manage the conversion, which would have resulted in a draw. Fortunately for St Peters, the kick was missed and we won the match 10-8. The success story continued right throughout the block, with the seconds winning their match 41-21, the thirds 17-12, and there were also some impressive wins for the under-15A and B teams. Well done to all involved in those matches. A notice now from the Careers Department reminding all fifth form pupils that you have the opportunity to complete the Moresby profiling test over half term. This is a really important way, not only of helping you to think about your immediate next steps as you move up into the sixth form, but also beginning to get a sense of what opportunities are out there for you in the longer term. You've been sent some really detailed guidance on how to go about doing the test, which should take you about 2 hours, so please do read that guidance carefully and make sure that it's completed over the course of the break. Well, we certainly find ourselves living in peculiar times, and this is certainly not the way that any of us would have wanted to close out the first half of term. In my short time at Peters, I've learned quickly that this is a school which thrives on community and a genuine sense of togetherness. A nature documentary focusing on the habits of the Peterite would surely describe them by and large as sociable beasts who are never happier than when enjoying laughter and each other's company. This is clearly a very special school, populated by people who see the value of friendships and of loyalty, and understand that selfish achievement should never be prioritised over the needs of the many. The world outside, however, is a different place. One only has to take a glance at the news to see a very bleak picture, or indeed to reflect on the events of global history, which does us as a civilization very little credit. Almost daily, we see just how ready the race of humans is to turn on itself. Aristotle, writing more than 2,000 years ago, had already worked out that to be angry is easy. How right he was. It is the simplest thing in the world to be cynical, to be petty, to be pedantic. Nothing could be more straightforward than to willfully misinterpret someone or delight in making someone feel that they have stuffed up. We've all done it. There is a curious facet of human nature which causes us on occasion to revel in the mistakes of others and to take the opportunity of making ourselves feel better. The German word Schadenfreude describes the pleasure derived from another person's misfortune. This, of course, has never been easier. In a world where social media platforms allow anyone with an opinion, no matter how ill-informed or irrelevant, to broadcast it with impunity, and often without fear of comeback. If it was easy for the people of Aristotle's time to be angry, one can do it today almost entirely without thinking. To make matters worse, the effect is always cumulative, with more and more and more people being drawn into the discussion, so that by the time the discussion has reached its culmination, the original issue is forgotten by those who are too busy working themselves up into a fury. The fight becomes all about the fight. What is also easy, however, is to assume that this is somebody else's problem. Sometimes when an issue is too big to comprehend or so seemingly hardwired into the fabric of society, we simply assume that it will be somebody else's job to sort that out. Much is made of heroes in the modern world, people who go beyond the bounds of what we would normally consider to be possible for mere mortals. It is no accident that appetite for heroic culture, whether Marvel or DC or Bond, has never been greater. But somebody reminded me recently that the greatest of heroes inhabit the stories that nobody hears. And it's true that so often the actions that have the most profound impacts are so small as to be barely noticeable. The responsibility for countering a culture of cynicism or negativity or hatred lies not so much with governmental structures, but with us as individuals, and often through tiny but spectacular acts of kindness. The word kindness itself is a slightly insipid one. It feels a bit weak and flimsy, and perhaps like something you might find yourself discussing over tea with an elderly relative. The concept it represents, however, is exceedingly powerful. Kindness is a choice, and seldom an easy one. It is not a way of being or a personality trait that comes to you naturally. In fact, when you think about it, kindness is almost unnatural. Kindness is an action, a decision. It's the choice you make not to contribute when you find yourself caught up in a discussion of another person's failings. It's the decision to accept that we all make mistakes, sometimes hideous ones, because that is a part of who we are and a part of the complex, messy process of being a human being. Because we are all human beings. There is so much being said, and much of it rightly at the moment, on the subjects of race, ethnicity, gender, age, religion, faith, political viewpoint, but when you come down to it, we are all, ultimately, human beings trying to understand an incredibly complicated world. Over time, as you grow older, experience helps you to feel you've got a handle on some of it, but anyone who tells you they've fathomed life out completely is probably not being entirely truthful. Of course, there are times when a passionate response or a contrasting opinion is the right answer. There are behaviours that are wrong and which need to be called out and challenged. It is not acceptable for some human beings to treat others as if they are worthy of less respect than other human beings, and neither is it acceptable for some human beings to feel intimidated or cut off from opportunities through the ignorance or passivity of others. It's interesting that Aristotle's full quote is, "To be angry is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not easy." Making sure that when we challenge unacceptable behaviours and attitudes, we're doing so because it's the right thing to do, and not because we want to make ourselves feel better, and because it will make a difference, is complex, especially in a world which is still very much wrestling with issues of identity and equality. In fact, as a school, we're going to be doing some work in that area after half-term, and I'd ask you to engage with it really thoughtfully, not because of what you read in the media or because it's the politically trendy thing to do, but because one of the most important things as a community that we can do is to work out how we can better respect and look after each other. We are all going to make mistakes. It is an indisputable fact. But when it happens, let's not punish each other for those failures or dwell on the past. It's easy, and it can have a weighty cost. Nobody gains in those interchanges, and in fact, we are diminished by them. Instead, let's take a bolder decision. Let's choose the act of kindness from one human being to another human being. Choose to forgive, choose to support, choose to grow, and to learn. One day it will be the turn of your generation to be at the helm, and I'm sure that all of you will at some time or other find yourselves in positions of leadership where you'll need to make these sort of choices. When that happens, I hope you will remember that while to be angry is always easy, to act kindly is always right. Have a wonderful half-term, and I look forward to seeing you all again in person in November.